Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined with Professor Gordon Lynch, who is going to be one of our guest speakers at this year's ANZSSFR annual meeting. So a very warm welcome to you, Gordon, and we thank you so much for your time. So would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and your presentation at this year's conference, and just a few things that you're particularly looking forward to at this year's annual meeting?
Thanks, Anthony. Yes, I'm Gordon Lynch, and I'm privileged to be one of the speakers at this meeting. I'm a professor of physiology and the director of the Centre for Muscle Research in the Department of Anatomy and Physiology at the University of Melbourne. I'm also the current scientific director of the Australian and New Zealand Society for Sarcopenia and Frailty Research. In my presentation, what I hope to be doing is identifying some of the challenges for successful pharmacotherapeutic management of sarcopenia. So if we're going to develop effective therapies for sarcopenia, age-related muscle wasting and weakness, we first have to identify what might be the barriers that might be limiting their effectiveness. And the sort of barriers that I'm talking about could be things like inflammation, which could be chronic, low grade, it could be local, it could be systemic, it could be the stability of membrane associated proteins that are involved in normal anabolic signaling. It could be inherent neuromuscular deficits, so things like the neuromuscular junction and the patency of those connections, and could also be inherent deficits in excitation contraction coupling. So my contention, what I hope to be putting as part of my presentation, is that if we don't address these barriers, if we don't overcome what these barriers are, really it's going to compromise any of the therapies that we're likely to put forward, whether they be exercise, whether they be nutritional, whether they be pharmacological treatments. If the barriers aren't addressed from the outset, then the effectiveness of those interventions will be limited. So I'm really looking forward to being at the meeting. I think it's one of those rare opportunities where we have clinicians and allied health professionals and scientists, students at all levels. It's really just one of those unique times when we're all together talking and learning from each other about sarcopenia and frailty. I think it's just a wonderful meeting where I think everyone should be encouraged, if you're involved in aging and frailty research from all disciplines, to come along to attend and to participate at a pretty important meeting for the Australian and New Zealand Society for Sarcopenia and Frailty Research.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today, Gordon. So if you're interested in finding out a little bit more about this year's conference and the program that we have on offer, please visit the conference website, which is www.anzssfrmeeting.com.au. Thank you once again, Gordon, and we look forward to seeing you all in Brisbane.